Okay, if it's okay with you, I'm going to record this meeting so we have it for reference.
Sure.
Okay, I'm recording that. And okay, the quick status update on your upgrade is that your test is now in the new version, but that took us a while. Your online pro portal is also in the new version, your test instance of it. And the skin, we had to do a little bit of tweaking to make sure the skin would render properly in the latest version. So it is now available for testing. What we're not finished with yet is evaluating your bridge. So the next step for us is to evaluate your bridge. And what we're going to be doing, and Jill, this is really something that we're going to, I would appreciate any input you may have for us. And that is, we're going to take one of your regular daily bridge files that you're loading into your production EMAS and load it directly into the test and see whether or not it fills in everything appropriately or whether there are issues that would require a bridge change in order for us to get your production instance up to the latest version. So as I understand it, your primary reason for not upgrading has been because you felt that you didn't want to you didn't have bandwidth to make changes to the bridge. Is that correct?
Right, right. And I think there are a couple additional fields that were added to the newer version in the import formats. That's what I was told.
Correct. So, correct. And depending on which, you're using a single file, right?
We use single file 1, and then the graduate school actually uses single file 2.
Okay. So we're doing 2 imports. Okay. And that makes sense because that has the GRE and the GMAT score spaces in the single file too. So as we evaluate this, we're going to be identifying where anything that you have in your file does not load to the appropriate place and whether or not it's just a position that needs to change. I learned at the last session that the file's delimited, so we also have some field length changes that will probably not be affected because it's delimited. So we'll be able to basically turn back a spec to you guys as to what may need to be changed in terms of the actual file. And the changes haven't been large, so they shouldn't be large changes to be made to the bridge. But the conversation that will need to come in with you all is about the new SAT scores. Because one of the significant changes in the file, we haven't added anything new to the single file layout for those scores, but when you load them to EMAS, you need to indicate whether you want them to load as the new scores or as the old scores. Does that make sense? So if
typically how we've been using that is for the scores is we basically just want, we don't care as much about the actual scores, but we care about getting the name, address, information in there because we use those as like a new inquiry because the scores themselves will come over from the banner file.
Do you not load the EMAS, the direct file from the College Board and from ACT into EMAS?
We have been, yeah.
Okay, so you're doing the commercial file loads.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
But we just don't care too much about those scores when they're loaded as inquiries, because that information gets loaded into Banner, and then when it's loaded from Banner into EMAS, then that brings it all over as dominant.
But we might be able to use the scores as inquiry moving forward as potential scholar.
Yeah, if they come in first.
Right.
So one of the things that a lot of our clients are doing with inquiry scores is messaging students who may qualify for scholarship to help encourage them to apply. And they're usually doing that based on the test score that they may get from students who indicate to how their score is sent to Buffalo State. So that being said, the fact that you're loading them into EMAS from the commercial import is good because you're getting the rich data that comes with it that doesn't go to Banner, that you can use also for analytics or for messaging. But also you have the opportunity to run analytics and identify key performances in your conversion rates based on test scores. So there's a lot that you can do with that.
And one of the things, Anna, when we did that and we used the commercial imports is your process loaded in the Social Security numbers. So we had you block that out so the socials did not go into our EMAS instance.
Okay. So with the upgrade, I need to have that changed. Okay, so do you know, did we also block the GPAs from coming in?
No, that's fine. It's just the Social Security numbers.
Okay. All right. So we'll now that we've done the upgrade, we'll need to re-block that because the upgrade sets it back to the standard import template.
Before you make that change, Anna, we're going to have some internal conversations about that.
Okay.
It'd be more appropriate to mask it because that becomes a good match field for duplicate records as well.
It is. So your match fields in EMAS can include Social Security number and also banner ID if you're moving the banner ID into EMAS, but of course as an inquiry they don't have a banner ID yet. So that SSN can be a good match. There is a setting in EMAS to mask it so that it doesn't display on screen and it doesn't display in reports. So when you choose to hide the SSN, it doesn't display on the screen, and if you run a report that includes SSN, because we have some canned reports that include that, if you run a report that includes SSN, the report will not show the SSN, it'll show X's because it's masking that in all public-facing areas. The only way you could see it is that you could query on SSN if you knew it, but other than that, it's not going to display if you choose the mask option. But yeah, there's
if you export the data, it'll show up. If you export the data, it'll come over also.
Correct. If you run an export, if you have access rights to export the raw data to a raw data file, then you would end up being able to see the SSN that way. Do a lot of people have user access rights to run exports?
Counselors, if they need to get files for their contacts.
Okay. Exports. All right, so I'm making a list as we're talking, and I'm really glad we're recording this because we're going to have some recommendations, and you all can choose, obviously, which are the recommendations to take and which ones aren't going to fit for your business practices. But when we get to the training opportunity from this this new service agreement, we're going to be able to help talk about how counselors may be able to get the files they need to do their work the best they can do it without having to run a raw export. So reports, perhaps some custom reports that because we have our report builder, that give them exactly what they need without having to have this big fat file of things they don't need to look at and it's only codes with no descriptions. So there are some definite opportunities for us to make and usually when we get those reports the way the counselors want to use them, then there's more of a connection for them with EMAS and getting what they need out of it. It doesn't feel so raw in terms of looking at a raw data file. All right, that being...
One more point for David is right now we don't bring the socials from Banner either into EMAS. So we would have to, if we were going to do it, we would want to do it in both ways then.
Well,
we just bring the Banner numbers.
Right, I'm talking about duplicate checking in Banner. So we create a student record in Banner. Social becomes either match field between what you have in EMAS versus what is in Banner. Not necessarily bring from Banner over in EMAS.
But how is it going to match it? It's not going to match if the inquiries only in EMAS.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying when you bring the inquiries in Banner. So
it doesn't go back, it's the other way.
Yeah, we don't. It's a one-way. It's a one-way export on Banner into EMAS.
Right, but select the inquiries. The inquiry form we have,
Right.
you're importing those to EMAS.
Right.
So when are they going to use Banner?
The inquiries don't go into Banner unless they never go into Banner.
So an app, they fill out an app that goes into Banner and then pull that over into EMAS. You can have an update there.
I mean, you can have a student in Banner before an application if they submit test scores.
Right. So then what happens is if the student applies, their record with their name and their address comes into EMAS, it matches based on the name, common name and address. So it doesn't, social's not in there at all. And then that's how the inquiry gets a match with an application.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, just
The name and address.
yeah, you're going
Yeah.
to provide some recommendations on
Yeah.
how we might leverage that and the utility of it, and we can make a determination on whether it's something we want to include or mask or delete.
Yeah. I'm going to show you something on my screen just to give you a quick understanding, and this is part of what we're going to make some recommendations about. But again, I'm listening, and while I have specific questions to get answered today, I'm also listening to hear where we can make sure we make these pathways the best, because I'm a little unfamiliar with all of the current state. So part of today is to kind of evaluate the current state of what you have going on now and where your focus is. I want just the bridge that you mentioned. This is probably a relatively accurate picture of what's going on with your EMAS, maybe with some exceptions. And where you see the SIS, that's actually Banner for you. So you're actually running just a one-way data bridge from Banner into EMAS, but you're loading your search names, your test scores, your online inquiries, your all your recruitment activity data as inquiries into Recruitment Pro. It's not going to Banner, it's just living in recruitment. Is that correct?
Except for the case of the ACT and SAT scores, because those go into the SIS.
Okay, so
They go into both.
They go into both individually. Perfect. Understood. So this little ACT, whoops, that's another example. ACT score would come over here. And then you have your application feeding into Banner, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you do any entry into EMAS of financial aid information from Banner?
ICERs that don't have applicants in Banner. So we load ICER, well, yes, just the bio data goes into EMAS for those that don't have an applicant record in the SIS.
Okay, so you do get your inquiries where you're getting a FAFSA submitted, but the student wasn't already applied, right?
Yeah, so at a certain point in time, we actually have a report run from our computing staff of people that have sent their FAFSAs and that do not have an application. That information is then given to me, which I then load that information into EMAS to enter them as inquiries.
Great. Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, that sounds like you're picking up. Some schools are missing that really good solid chunk of inquiries there. Okay, so what we have here, as we're evaluating the bridge, we're going to be able to see also what kind of data you're bringing in, and when we're loading it into EMAS to be able to see how it's rendering. So that I understand it is the highest priority is to get you upgraded. And that's partly a priority that we put on you so that when we work with you, we're working with the latest version and that you have the benefit of the latest version. But there's a few other benefits it brings as well. And one is that our latest EMAS Kaleidoscope, which is a data analytics dashboards, a good portion of it is free. And you would need that latest version to be able to use that. So that would be part of what you'll be able to have access to as well going forward once the upgrade's complete. Okay. Other priorities that I understand was in the area of the communication plan, that you all have a lot of new communications that are being designed. New communication campaigns based around some content that's currently being developed. Is it fair to say that the communications would be, since the upgrade was the prescribed priority, that the communications would be the next priority?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, I'd like to find out a little bit about what you what you see, what you think is the task ahead of us, and I'll share what I understand the task is. And I'm going to go ahead and put this up in front of us right now. This is the communication plan information that you all sent to us to share it. And it's broken out by stage, which is appropriate. And whether or not this is an existing communication or a new communication, and whether or not the drop is based on when the student is accepted or whether it's based on a hard date. So this is great. This is a fantastic document. The information about the rolling, the market. Are you looking to have us put this, like name the communications in EMAS with these names here for the ones that are not already there? Are you looking for us to reevaluate or look at your communication plans and see what needs to be revamped based on the new communications? Or are you looking for us to do something different?
Well, they have names, but they're not named yet as communication names. So,
I think if I can maybe just intervene or suggest, and Jill can correct me or slap my wrist where I'm go off the tracks here, but I think we could use some assistance with coming up with a streamlined, reliable, replicable workflow for putting these communications into the system and programming them out so that they will go out as intended on the date specified in an automated fashion.
yeah, the complication is they're not all ready and tested yet, as far as the emails go.
Are any of these the ones that SEMWorks is building for you, or is this a different list?
The ones that SEMWorks is building for us are the academic focused ones.
Mm-hmm.
That is right at the bottom of your page, row 13. That's where it starts.
Okay.
The other ones are either complete or in progress right now for completion internally.
Okay. Who is the person who generates your mail?
Well, I get the message from our college relations staff, and then we kind of have a HTML template that we use that I drop the text into. Carm also proofreads it, makes sure it's correct. And then I do the testing, and then once it's ready, then I will generate them and send them out. Now what I primarily do, because I pretty much do all the loading of data and sending it out, is, and a lot of these are not like planned already, I use the select target group to select them and send them out. So they're not in a student plan.
Okay. Do you have any student plans?
No, I mean not really. View books maybe, but.
Okay.
So I mean we could. I know there's a lot of logic that needs to get put in there to make sure that they get in the right order and days, and I have not had experience doing that.
Well, I think there's gonna be a blend here of services and training, and we don't want to do any. We can help offload some bandwidth from you for tasks that may involve some focused energy and some expertise that we have. But while doing that, we also want to make sure that there's a training component where you all know what we're doing. We're not going to do anything without your decision, right? We're not going to, first of all, let me clarify, we're not going to generate your mail. So you'll be seeing if we're building anything that's plan related or workflow related, you'll still be the ones clicking the button to have things launched, or for example, unless you would like it to be part of the services, you'd still be uploading the HTML templates. You'll still be the ones determining all the content and approving the content. where we come in is we can actually do the labor of inputting the plans, rolling over your plans, getting rid of old plans, cleaning up anything that's in there that's outdated and needs to be purged. So we can do that, but we also want you to know what we're doing and why we're doing it, and have you be the ultimate decision maker on it. So there'll be some training component to the parts where you just mentioned, Jill, that you're not as familiar with the logic, for example. So we can build logic based on your rules, but we want you to know what's in there so that you'll be aware of the of daily ins and outs. When you look at a student record, you'll know exactly what you're looking at. And it should be pretty intuitive. I mean, the contact history is going to show exactly what the student received. And if the student doesn't meet the logic to receive the item, then it won't go into their history. So after it's done, the data is very intuitive to look at. But setting it up, if you have some complex rules, is something that we definitely are here to help take that part on. So there's going to be a blend of where we go and we do stuff, and we'll say, okay, it's done, please take a look, or okay, it's done, let's walk through this together. And there will be some things that where we do a blended component of training. So for example, with the communication plans, we're going to be doing training because there may be things, we don't want to make assumptions that don't fit your needs. And so we'll need to work with you as partners on this.
Right, so like day 15, day whatever, that is actually day 15 after the accept date.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to make sure that we're using the right fields to use those dates.
Perfect, and I think that we're going to be able to build some of these things into the plan so that they're automated, and some of these things will need to be launched on a particular day and not rolling, right? So, for example, and this is a question that I'd like to go ahead and put to it now because we're going to come up later, but just to give you an example, this attribute-specific diversity postcard. This may not be it's new, it may not be created yet, but understood that this is a diversity message and that it's designed to go on December 20th. And then the subsequent drop, day 19, is 19 days after they've been admitted, right?
Right. After that.
Okay.
After they've been accepted. This is only the accepted comp plan. So anyone who is accepted as of December the 20th, they're going to get that on December the 20th. After that, they'll get it on day 19 of their acceptance date.
Okay. So this makes something very easy to put in the plan because you'll put it in the plan for day 19, and you could even do that today. It will accumulate. You can't actually drop it at all until it exists to drop, right? So it will build up, and on the day that you have it available, and if that's the 20th, there will already be a series of items due for the students that were in there from before. And then for anybody who is in there and receives it on the 20th, it's already in their history. Anybody who is accepted after that, it's going to go 19 days after they are accepted because the plan for stage 400s starts on the day they're accepted. So this is a very easy thing to build within the plan. That's what it's designed to do. And the first drop is nice because we can go ahead and, I mean, these dates some of them are already passed, but even for something like January 10th, we can go ahead and build it into the plan now. You're not going to drop it until it exists to drop, so it will accumulate until that day that you're ready to drop the first one. So there's a lot that we can do to build this so that it fits exactly what you've designed here, and then we need to understand when it needs to turn off and help you build the workflow as David described. So there's a lot of stuff in here, 78, but that's really not too many. We work with clients who have, upwards of 750 communications in operation at one time, any given term. So this is really not too beefy. This is very workable. Do you have items in here, this major specific, it sounds like this top 20, where you're going to have a different version for each major. Is that correct? Each major will have its own email.
Yes. Yes.
Got it. Okay. Variables. And what I learned from email exchange from Tim is that the content they've asked SEMWork to develop is for the websites, for the microsites, not for the email. Are we all on the same page about that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the email would be a subset of that content that we would cull together from what's been developed for the microsite.
Okay. And the email template itself, the HTML template that needs to be loaded to EMAS, is that something that you all use, a standard template you've already developed?
We
We
have
have one, but
templates.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we're going to do this.
It may be that that's part of the SEMWorks piece also. I just was,
yeah, they were supposed to develop an HTML template for us for the email as part of the scope. At least that's what I recall.
okay, got it. That's a little different than what I saw in the email exchange, so I will just make sure I clarify that with SEMWorks.
Yeah, I thought that so we have, I think, 2 email templates that College Relations built for us. We've been utilizing that. I know that, I recall that the conversation with SEMWorks is that they're going to build a template for the microsite. I don't recall about another template for email communication. They're going to provide the content, but I don't remember the template.
And
But there was a little,
and that discussion's it's happening right now between the last I saw this morning from Tim is that and from SEMWorks is what we can fit in to the scope of the designated dollar amount, which is was all the content but not the coding. So we're still going back and forth to understand what we can fit in there and where the priorities are. But that should be all, I think, defined. I'm hoping by the end of the day tomorrow that those will be defined so that we can, so SEMWorks can charge forward, because that's a pretty ambitious timeline, and that we'll be working with the team here to get what we can in place without the content, right? So build the shell and have it be ready to have the content be loaded. So for example, getting the communication names in there will help. If we can name them now and understand that they're named and set up with the appropriate logic and markets attached to them, then all we have to do is upload the content when it's ready, and that'll really help save time later.
Anna, I do have a question. So, like the majors, the top 20 that SEMWorks is working on, at the end of our conversation, I know Jim was encouraging us to look at our timeline for the drop to be the end of January and then the end of February for the remaining 20 or 30 additional academic programs. So if we start, and they were going to provide that content to us on a rolling basis when they got it completed, how is it going to look in the comp plan that we set up? I know ideally we would have everything, all 40 or 50 of them on day one. Do we set it up like that and then just recognize it'll continue to accumulate until we hit the button?
Yes, there's actually, I'm excited about this one specifically because EMAS handles this really well. So with the comp plan, you're actually only going to put one item in the plan for this. This is going to both markets. So in each of those plans, you're going to have a different plan for each market. They're going to have one major specific message, right? So let's just call it, I'm going to call it for the moment, the major email, right? Something extremely generic, major email, okay? And it gets put in the plan, and this is in the accepted student plan. And it's just called major email because it's going to go in the plan for all freshmen, all transfers, both of those plans. It gets assigned to all those students when they get accepted automatically. and it's going to be assigned to go to them 20 days after the acceptance, right? So the first, on the day one, they're going to get an accept email or an accept letter or some communications about being accepted. They're going to get perhaps, the financial aid brochure, the honors program, other information that comes before this, and then they're going to get the major email. When the major email is generated, so if Jill goes in to generate the mail today and it says she has 500 major emails that are due today, it won't say that. It'll say she has 50 business accounting major emails due and 22 anthropology major emails due, and you know what I mean? It's gonna parse it out. It parses it out into individual mail runs on its own. It does that automatically. That way it can mass assign it to everybody, but when it gets to the point of generating it, it divides it up into each one. So it's really just one name, but there are going to be 50 different HTML docs that it pulls from. And when it goes to actually send it to the student, it's going to pull the right one. And if they're not already, then it will show. It'll say this, there's a status. When she goes to generate the mail, it'll say the business accounting one is okay to send, but the biology one is not okay to send because the content's not there. So she'll run the ones that are okay, and she won't run the ones that are not ready yet, and they'll just accumulate until the content is there, and then it'll say okay.
So when I would see the generate list, there would be, that's when it would break it down by every department. So I would see 20 different lines there.
Yes, you would see if you have, how many majors are there at Buffalo State?
We're not creating messages for all of the majors.
Okay, so you have 50. So basically this comes down to, we would not only put what we call that as a variable communication, meaning it has one name, but it has 50 different versions. We're going to combine that with a logic statement that says, but only for these 50 majors. So it won't pile up things that are due for majors that you don't have content for. But those other, your first 25, when they say okay, or you're going to get, he's going to do it rolling. So you might get, in early January, you might get the first 10. You could start sending those 10 out in early January as soon as you have the templates uploaded to EMAS. They will have a status of okay, they'll be ready to send. The ones that have a status of not okay are waiting for the content, and they'll just accumulate until the content's available.
But the same communication name will go in the history.
Correct. The communication name that goes into history is going to be the generic one. And you'll be, if you need to know which one did they receive, you'll look at their major field to see what their major one is. It will only send one per student. So if someone is chosen, if they're doing a double major, it's only going to send one.
Any reason, rationale to send a generic message for everyone outside of those communities?
The original thought was for undecided students. We have UNB.
Yeah.
I don't think it would, depending on what those additional majors are, I think it would be beneficial for us to have that conversation with SEMWorks to create identified a major but not one of our most popular majors.
I don't know if it's even necessary because they're already receiving something on day 19. So this is day 20. So if they miss that.
But day 19 is a postcard for neighbors.
Oh, you're right.
It was
Right.
So the prior communication would be students who soar, and then what's the one that follows? Day 30. That's a postcard. Day 25 is negative students who soar.
Right.
So there's not much of a gap there.
I have to commend you guys on this. This is a beautiful document. It really, it's very clear what needs to be done, what's in front of you, and what's in front of us. I really appreciate having this.
My
So
concern
there's
is
2 weeks later. 2 weeks later.
too long of a gap. Should there be something in the middle there for the people?
Well, if we don't have a communication for those, then it's a month. Because you're looking at 12/15 for students who score number 2. 3 weeks later would be the major. And if you scroll down just a smidge, Anna?
Sure.
And if not, then you're looking at students who score 3 on the 24th. So you would have a gap from December 15th through January 24th for email.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm asking. So is there something for just to craft a generic one for everyone? So we'll build that into the logic as well.
So we're really looking at 22.
No, we're going to, SEMWorks, I apologize, Carm. So SEMWorks, they're still working out the details as to how many academic programs you're going to be able to create content for. So we'll say hypothetically there's 40.
Oh, so we're not limiting it to the top. Correct.
Okay, it'll be the top 40 at some point in time, whether that's the end of February. They're still working out some of the timeline for creation of the content.
But like Anna said, she'll start it on the 20th for the ones that we have, on the 10th rather.
If we have it.
If we have them.
If not, it'll just accumulate until we have them. And then, now, once we have the document email, and we have this group of students, does Jill have to actually physically go in and hit a button still?
Yes. To generate the mail, yes, absolutely.
The generate, then hit mail merge, and then launch.
Correct. So you'll generate and then launch it from the merge. It's that's your moment to catch anything that's not right.
Is it a what? Do you have to do them separately? So in other words, if there are multiple communications, do those each have to be executed separately, or is it all in the queue system?
We call it autopilot, so you can put it on autopilot where it will run, consecutively through the list. But the email campaigns, Jill, you're using the EMAS Campaign Pro, right?
Yeah, so you'd have to go through generate each one of them.
For the email campaigns, correct.
Mail merge them, right? And when you get to the launch, you can probably do more than launching one at a
You can
time.
launch them all together, but the subscriber list gets uploaded to our servers, and so that upload, it's also your moment to, if you want to, you can predefine the subject line, but some of our clients want to change that subject line for a particular run. And so there's that moment where you get to make sure that everything looks the way it needs to look. That, you don't have to preview it, but that's that moment where that could happen.
Right. So yeah. So but the automation is that it's going to accumulate the query is already built.
You don't have to decide who gets it. That's already determined. That's already happening automatically. All you have to do is say go, basically.
Okay. So back to the SUNworks. So are they going to be creating the actual email and EMAS? So and tested it. So all I need to do is then just generate it.
That's a good question. So this becomes something that we can do as part of our services. So when SUNworks is ready to hand off that content, we can load it up. We can EMAS Pro team can upload that and test it. And by testing it, what we still want your approval on that. So we would be looking to have you have a test record in there that has a couple of emails addresses that we would be launching a test to, so that you could see it in different browsers and say, yeah, this is good to go.
And I already do that. So I have like an AOL, I have a Gmail account. That's how I test all my emails. Is I send them out to my own emails first, make sure they look okay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We just need your test records, and then we'll go ahead and assign it. We'll upload it, test it to ourselves, and then we'll assign it to your test records so you can see it.
Yeah, that would be a great help for all those emails, because that's a lot of work.
And that way, if there's any issues with the template, we can troubleshoot and resolve those. You don't have to worry about that until it's done.
Right, because we have some, being hosted, we're a little bit limited as to what we can do with our HTML because it's all on the hosted machine. So we've had issues with that a couple of years ago. That's why I always like to use the same template because I know it works.
Yep, that's helpful. David, I'm sorry, I missed your note earlier this morning about making you presenter.
Oh, no, I didn't. I think I clicked that by accident. I was just trying to maximize the size of your screen. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we've got 10 minutes to the hour, and I want to just do a quick recap and make sure that that I'm not missing anything in terms of the priority for what we want to start doing this month. So we're in the month of December going to be focusing first on getting this import tested. Once you all have, once we have identified whether or not the import is actually fine the way it is or whether it needs to be changed, we'll be providing that back as a status update. And then there's some decisions that will need to be made on your part, which is if the import's good to go and that you get to log in and see what it looks like in the test instance, we'll be looking for your okay to upgrade your production instance. If the import is not okay, then we'll be sending over requirements for what needs to change in the import, and we won't then address upgrading your production instance until the import has been updated. In the meantime, let's say there is work needed on the bridge. If there's work needed on the bridge, then we'll be passing those requirements back to Buffalo State, and then we will go ahead and start working with the team there to get these communication names in, to get logic, to set up, to have it ready to get the content so that you can see, and we can even have you see and what it's going to feel like and look like, and what we're talking about in terms of quantity of items that will be due in what time periods. And that's something that the reporting that's already built into the system will show that as soon as we get those names in there and get the comm plan set up. So we can start on that as well in December. I would like to have us get as far as we can, understanding that that the holidays are coming. So let me just, before we wrap up, let me ask, how would you like us to communicate with you when we need answers or we need to send the next step? We will put a project plan on your EMSU portal that I mentioned in the last meeting. So Jill and Carmela, you weren't there. When you log into EMSU, if you don't already have an account, then we'll want to make sure you get an account. That's a client portal. There's a special page just for Buffalo State that will have a place where we'll upload documents that you can download, and you can upload documents for us. The project plan will be there that'll show the status of where we're at currently and what is next. And so you can actually modify that if you want us to change priorities. I'd like to, at least in the beginning, plan to have us meet with you about a half-hour meeting, maybe every week, maybe every other week. So I'd like to know who needs to be in that meeting for the communications piece and who should be our primary point of contact, or do you want us to CC several people so that we know that we're communicating appropriately in the beginning. This can change over time. I'm just talking about this short term for right now for this starting piece.
Yeah, I think we should have a couple.
Yeah, there would be 3 of us, and 2, well, Jill and myself, and I will name one other person from my staff, but we would have Jill as point of contact.
Okay.
And the meetings, I don't know, weekly or every 2 weeks. Is it just to go over?
It's to make, yeah, to get your sign off on anything that where we need your decisions to, and to check, to go through the status check. If it's a quick one, it'll only be 15 minutes probably.
Probably want to do it weekly.
Yep.
And then there's obviously more, right? There's a whole a training component, and I'm going to, since we're working on the upgrade and the import, I'd like to recommend we start that in January. Is that acceptable?
That makes sense to me. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Anna, you guys are going to be doing the upgrade from our existing online pro forms to the production online pro forms, right? So we won't have to do work there to recreate those online forms.
Correct. The intention is that there will be no recreation of forms. That's why we needed, when we did the upgrade, we didn't only upgrade the recruitment database, but also the online portal, so that we've looked at the forms, updated them in test. So we want you to look at them and say, yes, this is acceptable to us, and then we'll go ahead and do the same thing in production.
So we'll have at least what we have there now.
Yes. Yes. Correct. Nothing's going to go away with the upgrade.
Okay, good.
If you want new forms, that's something else we can do for you.
Yeah, we'll have to look at that because there could be new ones. But in the past, we've had issues like updating them and not on the straightforward.
Okay, absolutely. That's part of all of this. I wanted to start with the starting point, and then my last question before I turn it over to you for any other questions is, what is your holiday schedule? Is the office closed during certain days?
Closed on December the 26th and January the 2nd.
So the holiday week, there's really not much going on here.
Okay.
Holiday
students.
week, no.
The EMAS,
In general, the hours, or if Jill or I are available those days.
Or if we'll be doing things.
Right.
okay. So the EMAS Pro office is going to be closed December 23rd through the 2nd. So basically the week between that 1 week.
Yeah, that's fine. We don't have anything going on.
So we won't have a meeting that week. What?
Our classes also end next week. So do we have a lot of decisions being made through the end of this month? The bridge program.
Sorry, I'm not supposed to show you. I didn't mean to show you my calendar. I forgot I was showing my screen.
We're not going to stop the process.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. When you do the cutover from test to production, is there going to be a downtime?
Probably.
A couple days?
No, not a couple days. We're talking about hours, and we'll try to do it after hours your time.
Okay.
Since we're on the West Coast, we can start it at probably 4 p.m. your time and be done by the end of our day. The test run took us longer, but that was our trial run. We'll be ready to do it, and if we do it I would like to schedule it for a Friday afternoon, so that in case there is any glitch in it, that we have the weekend to resolve the glitch before you're back on Monday.
Okay.
So Anna, for example, if a student is accepted on December 19th, for example, and the what would go on day 5? Well, assuming it's an EOP student or an honors student, something is scheduled to go out on day 5. Will that pause in that vacation week for you? So what happens? We just hold that mail?
You all can generate mail. You don't need us for the mail generation.
Okay. It goes into the little pile of emails to generate for that specific email. It adds into that count. But somebody still needs to go through the generate process in the mail merge and launch it.
Okay. But it just means that it might get launched later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's the same if mail comes due, if a postcard comes due on a Saturday, it'll still be due on Monday, and so it'll get printed and mailed on Monday. It's the same idea. You also can generate a mail early. So you can actually generate mail through the end of the year on December 22nd and get it all going right away. And you can schedule your email campaigns. So when you generate, if you want to generate your mail that's supposed to go out on December 28th and you want to generate it on the 22nd, you can generate it on the 22nd and have it scheduled to actually fire and land in their inbox on the 28th.
Okay.
So, and I don't know if you're aware of that, Jill, because that's in the new version. That scheduler you haven't had. But
Right.
the latest version of EMAS, you can pile up your campaigns and put them on a scheduler so that they're not piled up to the student, but you get to get them off of your plate all at once.
So they end up in the campaign manager?
They end up in the as when you go to the launch, you're going to put a launch date and time on it. And so you'll be done with it, and it will launch on that date. So you're going to go through your whole process, but you're going to set the date and time at the launch. And then it won't actually send the email until the date and time that you specify.
Yeah.
So that's something that can help, especially if you've got time where you're not going to be there, but you still want the mail being delivered. That with the email, that's actually very easy to do. The postcards, obviously, you can also print those in advance, but requires somebody to get them to the post office. So the other piece of that is that you may have inquiries coming in. So let's say you generate all of your mail for the remainder of December on December 22nd. If you had somebody who inquired on December 28th, they won't get that mail until you get back, because they're not going to be loaded to EMAS until you get back, right? They're going to go and inquire. You're not going to run your M to I until you get back.
Right.
But they will get the automated email. They'll get the thank you for your inquiry. They will get that. Absolutely. That happens the minute they inquire.
If they're not, you mean if they're not loaded into EMAS?
If they inquire online on your inquiry form, the minute they hit submit, they get the thank you for your inquiry.
Well, that's, well, but you have an online inquiry form. It's just like on the
Right,
website.
but with that online inquiry form, somebody still has to go in and run the load to get those names in the database.
Into EMAS Recruitment Pro, correct. So they won't start getting the emails out of Recruitment Pro that are in your comm plan, but if you set it up to do so, they'll get one from Online Pro directly.
Oh, see, ours isn't set up to do that.
Okay, but maybe something that you'd like it to do, and that's very easy to set up.
That we can definitely would have like some help on that.
Okay.
So something like that. Because when we set up the Online Pro, I wasn't here yet. Karen was being trained how to do it, so we never really got a good program in place for that whole Online Pro inquiry.
Understood. Okay, I have some work to do on my side to get this all put into plan format, and we'll post it, and I will follow up with you by email to get a date and time and for those weekly meetings, and we'll try to do it at the same time every week.
And for those weekly meetings, Anna would start, when did you propose?
Next week.
So Anna, do you need those bridge files, or do you have something?
We have, if you load them to the FTP, Jill?
I don't know if Carolyn does that anymore. We used to.
Okay, then yeah, Lorna Harris is going to reach to you and ask for the location.
Yeah, because we can just we can load them without going through the FTP. I mean, it works.
That works.
So
Okay. Yeah, we need to have access to the file then. So maybe what we do is need to have you load one file up to the FTP for us so that we have access to it.
All right.
And Lorna's going to be doing that, so I'm going to have her contact you, and she's been on the line. I'm sorry I didn't introduce her. Lorna has been on the line
Oh,
because she's going to be the one doing most of this project work. So
yeah, I can give Lorna the bridge file. I can give her the graduate school bridge file, which is the standard 2 format, because of undergrad is
Okay.
And then I can also give you 1 or 2 files that I create for other college fairs and stuff that I import in, if you want to do those too.
That sounds good. I should be able to test them today.
Okay, thanks.
So meanwhile, Anna, is there anything you need from us? Are we?
right now, Carmela, right now the ball's in our court. Right now the ball's in our court about the upgrade. We will be working with you directly on we're going to run through and do some analysis on this this plan sheet, the communication plan sheet, and we're going to propose a set of steps, and that's when we'll meet. We'll make sure that we're good to go on those first steps. But our marching orders right now are to get that bridge file figured out. So ball's in our court right now. There's nothing else for you guys until we meet next, which will be early next week.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate your time, and then we'll have a project plan so that Carmela, that question will be easier for you to see. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.